Chris Bird is the general manager of Saybrook Point Resort and Marina, a luxury waterfront resort in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, where the Connecticut River meets the Long Island Sound. He oversees nearly every part of the family-owned property: the hotel, guest houses, villas, the lighthouse suite, the award-winning fresh salt restaurant, a full-service spa, and a deep water marina, thriving wedding and events business, and the only butler service in Connecticut, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. With a background in accounting and hospitality leadership, Chris runs the resort more as a CEO, not a manager. He hires strong people, he develops them, and trusts them to run their corners of the business. I have had the benefit of meeting Chris a couple of times now. We've had really powerful sales conversations, and it's such an interesting perspective with his role as a general manager. So I'm very excited to dive into our discussion. Chris, welcome to Prospecting on Purpose.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to team up with you again.
Likewise. And I think one of the things that would be really helpful just to orient our audience is if you could paint a picture of what it is you actually do. What is a general manager of a hotel like yours, a large hotel? What do you actually do?
It's really about the connection, whether it's connecting with your guests, whether it's connecting with the team. I look at myself as a tool. I am the tool for every staff member. My philosophy is hire the right people, give them the skills, training, tools they need, and stay out of their way. And really, we hire for that personality. So it's really just that free safety. You're just walking around, touching people, making sure everything's okay. When things get really emergent, you jump into action, but you're seeing things and you're looking for what gaps we have and how to fill those. And that takes a whole team. As we like to say, it takes a village, right? Sometimes we'll have 240 guests at the hotel, plus wedding guests, plus members, plus restaurant guests. So we may have 850 people on the property at one time, and no one person or 10 people can handle that. We have to work together to do it. And so it's just seeing those opportunities.
That's one thing that as I've started to meet more general managers, that seems to be a through line thread of the role is really leadership, but it's empowering your people to do what's best for the guest and what's best for the hotel. And when I think of a general manager, correct me if this statement's wrong, but it's almost like you're the mayor of your own little city, and there's all these different departments going on.
I never thought of it that way, but that is perfect, right? And it's how do you bring those other departments together, right? And how do you bring them together so the guest experience flows better, but also how do you bring them together so they can share their ideas and what's working in, say, a banquet department with a spa director. You think those are totally two different animals. However, it's still an operation, and how can we work together to make each other's ability to serve guests better?
And I think about some of the parallels between other industries too, Chris, because I think anyone listening can really get the angle of there's different departments. You might have sales versus marketing versus engineering versus project management. And if none of those people talk to each other, which is a very big offense that I see in my work, things break down and the person who suffers is the customer or the guest. So maybe we can talk a little bit about how do you empower your leaders to come together and collaborate and talk to each other?
Honestly, the first and easiest way is I'm sorry. So the second somebody comes up and says, I should have known this information or this wasn't shared with me, great, I'm sorry. I have to be vulnerable. I want to know that. So now let's look at how we can do that. Because at the end of the day, that is the way that it needs to be. And the final piece is me making sure that these managers have the information they need to do their job. And so my first reaction is, I'm so sorry. And then how do we get you the information you need? One of the things that we do every day in stand-up is we get together and we do stand-up. And when I got here, it was very much of, this is what I'm doing today. This is what I'm doing today. That's lunchroom talk. We can talk about what we're doing all day long. Talk about how we can work together and not what are you doing? What are you doing for others? And what do you need from others? It changes the dynamic of the meeting when the restaurant manager walks in, and instead of saying, oh, we've got 180 on the books and they're saying, hey, I saw the sales. We have a site today. Can you give me some more specifics on where this guest is coming from? And are there any food allergies? So different. So again, it's empowering for each of them. I can't do it all. I never will pretend I can do it all. And so all I can do is empower people as much as possible to run their business and reach out to others to help make them more successful.
I love you said a couple of things that are really powerful. One is the when you come together, it's not talking about the day-to-day stuff, but it's what do you need from others and what can I do for you? And I see that a lot. One way I frame it, if I get a group together, is I call it offers and asks. So
Yeah,
people
perfect.
will offer something they can contribute, but then what do you need in return? And I think you're so right. It creates a much different connection and collaboration when you approach it from giving and adding value. And then the other thing you said that I want to dive into is this concept of you being the leader, you are the tool for your to empower your team. Are you a tool for the guests too? Can you give a couple of examples there?
Absolutely. One of the things that I think for me, it's that security blanket. I have been in roles where I was the center of the guest, right? Very small properties, high end luxury, $1,200 a day per person. You need that personality. They want that touch with the general manager. Here at Saybrook Point, it's about the associates. And so it's not about me. It's actually about the team or the ownership, right? The GM doesn't matter in that sense. But yes, I'm a security blanket for them. They know there's a general manager. They know that they can speak with the manager at any time and they can reach me and I'm on property and available on the website. One of the things that's been very important to me is my information is on the website always as a general manager. That way anyone can get to me however they need to. So this is a different role than some general manager jobs, but it's such a great fit. When you have a front desk associate who's been here 30 years, there's not much he needs from personality of a GM because he's the star of the show. It's not.
It's so interesting you say that you put your email and your contact info front and center because in my business, I've been interviewing a lot of different general managers, and sometimes I'll walk into a property and I'll ask for the card, and and it will be, I'm interviewing someone for my presentation at the New England Inns and Resorts Association. I'm not trying to sell anything, I'm trying to add
Right.
value. And it is funny, there's been a handful of times where the person refuses to give me the contact info of the GM. And then other
Oops.
times where it's like, yeah, of course, send him a note. And so it's interesting. I understand probably why they would keep it guarded
Yep.
because I'm also assuming, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you get a ton of people trying to sell you stuff?
Yes. But I've also empowered the team to that they can ask questions.
Mhm.
And so for them, they are very protective of me and my time. But on the other end, if they really see that this is a true guest, it's the answer is usually here's his card. Let me see if he's available.
Right.
Because that's better. Let's just talk about it, right? Very, very often, if somebody comes to get me, they already have the story, meaning the associate, on where I need to meet the guest.
Mhm.
That's very helpful. So whether it's to praise this team or talk about things we can do better, or if it is sales, usually I know what I'm walking into, which is fantastic. Makes it easier to be present.
Great. And then in your particular role, so you're empowering your teams, but I believe the general manager, in some sense, is also responsible for the high profile relationships and also generating business for the hotel. And I think that's one thing that I would love to talk to you about because I think most people, when they think of a hotel, they just think guest rooms and public areas. They don't think about it as a business vehicle that has to go out and make money and has to go out and get new business. So I would love to learn a little bit about your role in the sales process and how are you bringing new business and creative business into the hotel?
So there's a couple of different ways to do it, but one is you have to get out into the community. And I'm very fortunate that I walked into a property 4.5 years ago that has a long history since 1989 and has a phenomenal following and a phenomenal reputation. The ownership from the founders to their children who own it now have always been very generous with the town, with the community. This is off tangent a little bit, but as a general manager, one of the things that's such a luxury for me is I have a full property generator. So if the property loses power right on the shore, I don't have to deal with not having power. but it wasn't put in so the GM had an easier job. It was so the town had a place to go during these storms. Superstorm Sandy, we were 2 days down, and then our restaurant was, I'm sorry, day and a half down, and our restaurant was fully open. Hotel was open because we had the backup generator. And so it's just being creative and making sure people know that you are that resource. Again, I think it's that service. How can I help you? How can I help the chamber? How can I help the lodging association? How can I help the town? How can I support this event? Creating events that are for our guests, but are also for the town is humongous. Promoting other events, restaurants that have nothing to do with our business is a way to generate longer stays and again, get that guest who's more involved, engaged, and interested in Saybrook Point.
That's so cool because I feel like in that example you just shared, there's a lot of elements to it. One is having the business, which is the hotel, be a pillar of the community
Correct.
and part of the community. I like the point of promoting other restaurants because that does help you if people extend their stay because they want to experience more of Old Saybrook. So it's that give and take. It's helping the restaurant, but it's also helping you. So there's a B2B element here,
Yes.
Chris, and then the B2C with the guests too. And I think that's the other thing that I find really compelling about the hotel business, the business of a hotel is there's a big break of B2B business and B2C business. So maybe we could talk about that a little bit too. Tell us a little bit about the B2B business that you are prospecting for, and then let's get into the individual guests.
Yeah, some of the B2B businesses actually, and we're just finishing up a beautiful renovation and spending quite a bit of money. And one of the big pieces is we're seeing those vendors that we're spending money are coming here and they're spending their money, right? It's that appreciation. And that's something that is about that partnership. We had just an impromptu, we need to do some construction. So an excavation company came out. It was arranged by a different partner of ours. And the next day, the excavation company calls me and says, I want to have my holiday party there. Out of the blue,
Cool.
give me business. I want to give you business. And that's how we operate. We expect that and look for that. And again, go back and look to how can we help our vendors get out in the community. So again, rising tides raises all ships. If everybody's looking for a way to make that stay, that experience, that spa visit, that restaurant visit better and more enjoyable, then the better everyone is.
I like that angle too, Chris, because I've always been on the vendor side. I've always been selling into developer, brand, property direct. And sometimes you can get a little insecure from the vendor side that you're like bothering the person or the relationship isn't as
Yes.
strong as it is. And so for people, and I've gotten through that because I've saved the day many times at hotels. So now I know my value a little bit more, and it helps me when I approach people because I know my value before they know my value, and that has helped me be more confident in reaching out cold or trying to sell into someone like yourself. But what I like about what you said is it is a true partnership because whether you're the client, whether you're the buyer, whether you're the seller, you need each other to propel business forward. And so I like that your examples of partnership with the vendor, I think just might help empower some people to feel a little bit more confident in reaching out and or how they show up in their partnership.
Yeah, it's making yourself available. It's not shutting that door. It is being open to the sales that are coming through. Perfect example for me, I probably get 10 emails a month and 12 phone calls a month about a new property management software. I'm not interested. I'm not going to buy it. But it doesn't mean that I have to hang up on somebody. I just let them know, hey, we've invested a lot. We're very happy. And please send me an email. And I'm happy to reach out if I need it. Right. So you have to put yourself on the other side. And what would you and how would you want others to treat you? And you have to leave that hope for them eventually, but let them know that they've heard you. Otherwise, they're going to keep calling. If they're great salespeople, they're going to keep calling you.
Tenacious.
Yeah. So
Good
it's like,
point.
right. So make sure they know that you're just, I'm not going to make the change.
Yeah.
And acknowledge that they're there if you do need it. And that's important. And there's nothing wrong with having 4, 5, 6 different depths of vendors behind you, right? If this one's too busy, you haven't burnt a bridge over here.
That's such a good point too. Like diversifying, you can't put all your eggs in one basket because you never know what might happen to that vendor or what might happen to technology might change and all of a sudden AI goes mainstream and everything is turned on its head. So or there's a pandemic, God forbid, you just never know what's going to happen. And so I think that that's a great point of being open to receiving. And there's been times I had Frank Gehry, world famous architect. He recently passed away, but I was trying to sell to Frank Gehry's office. And you can imagine that is Fort Knox. And I met the person, I gave my little spiel, and he said, no, the construction's too far gone. It's fully baked. We don't need you. And he said, but feel free to send me an email. So I did. Fast forward a couple months, got an email back, and they just basically wanted me to assure them that the third party, not my competitor, would work. And I said, I can't guarantee that. It's not my product, but let me know if you need any help. Fast forward another couple months, they got into construction. They had some severe limitations. They came back and said, can you fix it? And we did. And I got an entire museum with our product in it because of just the politeness between both parties and the respect between both parties.
Yeah, that's what it takes. We all need each other.
Have you ever been, you don't have to name names, but have you ever been like offended by an outreach? Has anyone done a really bad job that you would say is a big no-no and don't do?
I think when, no, I mean, there's times when people want to, my biggest thing is send me an email, then I have all the information, and then I can read it on my time. The hard part is when they push that phone sales, that blind call phone sales for that time. That's where it's like, please be respectful of my time. And so I just say, hey, I'm going to do this on my time. And the easiest way to do that is if you will send me an email. 9 times out of 10, you can tell, and they will say, great. Is there a time I can follow up with you? Perfect. Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Give me a month and a half to look at it.
Yeah.
Or give me a day, or give me 4 days, and there's that time when you're just hook, line, and sinker right there on the phone, and you just keep going because it is something that's a need. It's just, again, it's just meeting people where they're at.
Yeah. I like that. And listening. I think active listening is a skill people can struggle with. And it's a skill we all need to practice because that's what's going to change the game. That's going to differentiate you if you can listen. And I think one thing that's been interesting too in our conversations was I want to dive a little bit deeper onto the vendor piece because from the hotel standpoint, and this applies to a lot of different industries, there is nothing wrong with asking your vendors to spend money with you if it's an appropriate partnership. So can you talk a little bit about, maybe give us some examples or some starting points if someone's listening to this and they haven't really thought to go chase their vendors for business?
Yeah, what I've done is I've done the soft sell where at the end of the year, I will just run the 1099 report who we're sending checks to for the year. And then just send a letter and say, it's been great. We really appreciate the partnership. Please let us know if there's anything we can do in the way of gift cards, or try to give them a lot of different options because not every business does it fit, right? They may be driving 2.5 hours from their location to be here, and that's not a great fit. But giving gift cards to their staff to come down and spend the day at the spa or spend the night here is a great fit. Others, it's a holiday party. And people understand that and they respond to it and they appreciate the connection. We know who our top payees are, and it is that partnership. I had somebody approach me the other day and I was ready to ring in their product. And it was one of a new bourbon, a new spirit. And the salesperson said, the owner said that they will be here within 2 weeks to spend $300 in your restaurant. And I said, oh, that's great. That's how we like to work. That wasn't the reason. I was already saying yes. But that person understands the value of showing up and doing it. And I'll be honest with you, we leverage our vendors we created this event called Oysters at the Point, and we leverage our vendors to donate to a nonprofit, the Rockfall Foundation. And we've raised over $65,000 in the last 3 years for the Rockfall Foundation, because we've gone to them and said, hey, this is a cause we support. We want to have this wonderful oyster festival, and we want you to come and pour or showcase your items to this great public that we have and the group of guests. And it's been fantastic. And so again, it's just where they understand that, yes, it is that relationship building.
And that example is a win-win-win because it's a win for the hotel because you were able to execute a great event and donate to a cause. It's a win for the nonprofit. And then it's a win for the vendor because they still get exposed to your guests who are at that event. And I think that's one thing that I find really inspiring about the hospitality industry is you have to be creative to get business. I'm sure a lot of people listening aren't thinking about the hotel having to go generate inbound. Sometimes I think we just don't give it that much thought if we're not in that world. And the other thing I've learned from you in the past is this concept of being there for the families too, and this concept of social, what do you call it? Social events?
Yeah, I knew
Social
that's
events?
where you're going, right?
Yeah.
So it's having that pipeline, right? You're doing somebody's 65th birthday and somebody who's very involved in it is turning 60 in a year. So in 8 months, you call and say, hey, we had such a great time celebrating so and so. Are you looking to do something similar for so and so's 60th? And I can't tell you how much business has come from that. One of the things, and and we've talked about this is a tough piece of business because we are honored to have the celebration of life. You can't celebrate getting that kind of business because of what it's about. But at the same time, we know that we've grown our reputation as a business that can really handle it and be sensitive and execute very well. And so that word of mouth has really spread. So you got it on both ends, right? You get the wedding shower, the wedding, the baby shower, and then the christening, right? So in a matter of 3 years, you see the same people 5, 6 times, but then it's also the offshoot of the family.
And so there's a couple things I want to pull. The first is listening. We were just talking about listening and you're saying, okay, 59-year-old is planning their partner's 65th birthday, but they're going to turn 60 next year. So you guys, your team has their ear to the ground to realize, oh, your little flags wave to say this person might want to come celebrate their thing here too. How do you keep track? May I ask how you track that? Do you track it or are there notes like
Yeah.
CRMs? How do you track it?
Yeah, through the CRM, through our property management system. So one of the nice things is your event may be over, but I can still put a flag out that's connected to your event in the future, like a follow-up. So instead of, in addition to similar, you do the same thing for your bride and grooms. You're reaching out to them as their anniversary comes up. And so it's the same thing, but you put in the notes that it's Deanna's 60th after, but it's sitting in Jerry's profile. So you remember the connection super
Got
easy.
it. Oh, that's
And then
clever.
it springs it. And then again, then you're approaching it as a non-cold call because you remember them.
Right.
And you are cold calling, but you're not. You're checking in with somebody and continuing the relationship.
And there's a lot of industries that can do similar things. I met a realtor, I had a realtor on the show, and she has a home anniversary. So every year when the person's home anniversary comes up, she sends a little gift basket with a couple cards because she knows their network, their neighbors might be needing a realtor. Even if they don't need one because they just bought their home a year ago, that doesn't mean that the network wouldn't send them business. And I think that's what's cool is you guys are just building out your web of connectivity on potential prospects.
Right. And again, it's out of the blue for some of them and they just so appreciate it. And the fun part is when you call and it's like, oh, we were just there for dinner 3 days ago, right?
Oh, that's
What
cool.
coincidence? And yeah, so it's great. It's great. Just having those connections and keeping them going.
Well, I think because I know people get insecure about reaching out and asking for business. That's a big theme I hear is people are uncomfortable asking for business. But when I think about that example, and I've been on the receiving end of it, I plan a lot of events for my business. And I did an event last year at a rooftop restaurant in Laguna Beach. And she emailed me earlier this year and said, hey, Sarah, it was so fun to have you last year. Do you have anything coming up this year? And I didn't want to research other venues. I hate doing all that research. So I just said, you know what? Yeah. Are you free this day? And she closed a $1,000 deal because she made it easy for me. And so your example of, hey, Diana, you want to have your 60th here. You know what? We haven't thought about it. Yeah. Let me press the easy button and work with the Saybrook team. So I think that your example is, it's so not asking for business. It's more of inviting them to inviting them to experience it, and also you're being thoughtful. And so I think I really like this example because it distills a lot of the fear that I think salespeople feel when they're reaching out to people.
Yeah, I think so too. But it also shows a competence, right? We know that
And
if they're calling because they were in tune to what you were doing and they want business, and we always want people to want our business, right? It's you flip it around, right? How many times has somebody said, "Oh, I don't think they want my business." Well, okay, well, it's obvious that she wanted your business, so she called you, and that feels good. And then you go right back into the other parts where, oh yeah, that way I don't have to think. I know they executed well, and why would I go somewhere else?
easy button and
Yeah.
being intentional. And you're right. I think there's a lot to be said about communicating that you want someone's business, because where we put our money, and this is for anyone, B2B, B2C, where we spend our money matters. And you want to spend your money on people who will appreciate it, not people who just won't care. That's why when you buy something small on Etsy, it feels nice because you get a handwritten card from the guy,
Yeah.
gal who started the online shop with their handmade things. So it's kind of cool
Yeah.
that you guys can do that on such a big scale, because you are running a big enterprise operation with
Yep.
all of the different things you got going on.
And you want them to grow, right? I want the electrician that has one helper at a time and
Mm,
maybe one apprentice. And then we go and do this room renovation. He's got 8 guys with him. And I'm just like, yes, right? Like
that's
this
cool.
is
Yeah.
one person shop. And all of a sudden, he's had a lot of success because he's been phenomenal to us and the other businesses the family has. And now he's got a team and that work. And that feels good. I had no part in it, but it's so cool to see that they thrive and their business gets bigger. And then selfishly, their business getting bigger makes it easier because now when that electrician is in Maine, I've got 2 or 3 people that he can send where
Right.
3 years ago, I didn't have anybody else, right? He'd be like, I'll get there when I can.
That's
So
such a good point. Their business growing allows you to be better service. And so it's that flywheel effect that you help one another. And I think that's such a good reframe, Chris, because it is, this whole conversation to me is, oh crap, I gotta go call these people because they want me to grow too, and they want to hear from me too. And so it's less scary when you frame it that way. And I think you're also showing that you're living in alignment with your values of being a part of the community that adds value to your immediate community.
if you're not a steward of what you're doing, and
Mhm.
I'm a capitalist, businesses are built to make money. But if you ignore everything else or most everything else, you just don't have the same success. And it's very difficult to motivate a team and motivate a vendor and to take care and motivate a guest to spend their money with you. And so everything doesn't have to be altruistic, but at the same time, you've got to care and you've got to show that you want to give back. And that's what we do. And whether that's financially or with time or with the decisions that we make. One of our biggest things here is our ordering is ABC, anywhere but China. The
Mm.
human rights pieces are near and dear to our ownership, and we source wherever else we can. And whether you agree with it or not, it's still a stance that you know is the value of this property and this
Mhm.
ownership. And so if you align with it, it's even better. If you don't, then you decide that is that a deal breaker? But it probably isn't for
Yeah.
most, right? And nobody's asking you to do it at home. It's a balance,
Right.
but it really is having that. I really think I go back to that CEO and what do you do every day? And you walk around and you just take care of people and you instill the value of what they do and how important it is to the experience and how important it is to their coworkers and how important it is to the guests and the vendors. And yeah, it's just a vicious circle that goes
How they
better.
all help each other. And I think one of the things that, that you've said and I'm hearing loud and clear is empowering your people. And what are some of the things that you do for the listeners that you do as a leader, not a manager of people, but as a leader to help empower them and their leadership skills? What are some of the ways that you equip your teams that would be valuable for us to learn from and piggyback on?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones for me is back coming up in the 90s as a leader manager, right? Back then it was the 1 minute manager. Everybody's a manager. And then you realize, oh, wait, no, you're not a manager, you're a leader. But open door, anybody can walk into your office. And as much as I hate to admit it, that is not easy for every associate. It doesn't matter what the relationship. There's a feeling of walking into the GM's office, right? The principal's office. If
Mhm.
And while I hate that stigma, I understand it. And so one of my philosophies is an open floor policy. And what that means is that I need to go to the associate. I need to walk behind the front desk and see what I can do to support them and be there for them. And then when there's a gap, I can say, hey, what do you need? How's it going? Anything working great for you? Anything we need to do different? It's knowing what they need in their life and again, meeting them where they're at, that you can do that. I open it up whenever we hire somebody, I meet with them and I let them know we want any feedback you have on the training. Everybody gets trained differently. Everybody learns differently. I'm open to the feedback. It doesn't mean it's the way we have to do it forever, but it means that, hey, Sarah, that would have worked better for you. Thank you. Now we know that works better for you. And or this is disheveled, right? Maybe somebody hasn't looked at it in 3 years because we've just been training as we go. It just all those pieces. You have to go to the associate. You have to run at the guest to fix any situation, and you have to run at the associate to make sure that they are having their needs met.
Man, oh, you said so many good things right there, Chris. Open floor versus open
Yeah.
door. That I think is the language shift we can all use now. And the concept of, yeah, the phone goes both ways. When
Yeah.
I've heard
Oh,
leaders say,
yeah,
well, they
perfect.
never called me. It's like, well, you could call them and just check in, make that easier. So I love that, the open floor policy. And then giving yourself the ability to receive feedback can be hard for leaders too. And so I like that you're offering that up front. Do you have people come back with you with feedback and ideas?
Yeah, constantly.
Mhm.
And a lot of times it comes to the manager and then they'll say, hey, so and so brought up this because you said. I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
great, right? They can bring it right to me. They can go to their leader. They can just do it on their own, whatever works best for them. I'm trying to get back. You said something that maybe the calling both ways. I'm not sure.
Phone goes both ways. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Open floor.
Well,
I
oh,
love
that's what it
open
is.
floor.
It's meeting them where they're at. It may
Mhm.
be not the phone. It may be the email. It's learning. If you call me a couple of times in the middle of the day and I've asked you to send me an email, then
Totally.
understand you want to reach out to me by email because that's how I need to be reached, right? I'm that person when they say, can I follow up with you? Absolutely, please. I want that follow up. So it's having those and learning that relationship and how each person interacts and speaks and wants to be sold to.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And that's internally because you're talking about your associates reaching out to you, but
Yep.
also for vendors reaching out.
Right.
And I think that's something that's a great takeaway is communicate how the other person wants to be communicated with.
Correct.
Because I won't answer a Teams chat, but I will answer a text message if you need something, you know? And so making sure that you're communicating in the way that's going to get the response and make the other person's job easier. You also said something that seemed really powerful that we could take away is this concept of running at the guest. Is that if there's a problem or you need to greet someone, can you explain what that means?
Yeah, it's don't hide from the situation. We're not perfect. Actually, we had a guest last week that was a little bit, I won't say a little bit, they were inappropriate. And the
Mm,
team was just up in arms over this person swearing out her window. And so I called her up and she's like, you're right. I'm like, okay. She's like, my husband just passed away. And so again, it's like, okay, great. Now you forgive the person,
yeah,
but you don't have to forgive. It's still inappropriate,
right.
but you have that empathy.
You get a
And
little below grace.
right, instead of just calling her up and absolutely, we don't do that here. This is, hey, just let you know, this is what we need and letting her tell the story. So it's the same thing with an associate. You get somebody who's disgruntled or needs something. It's kind of funny. You never have enough martini glasses or enough teaspoons. The other day it was soup bowls. I said to Jack, how's everything? Do you need anything? He goes, well, I mentioned it a while ago, but I still only have like 15 soup bowls. I'm like, okay, well, they're on
I can
order.
solve this problem.
They take 6 weeks. So they're on order, but nobody
Yeah.
came back and said, hey, Jack, they're going to be here in 6 weeks. No big
Yeah.
deal. At least he brought it up. Somebody did something about it. And then I was able to close the loop and be like, okay, let's count them down 4 more weeks. We'll get those soup bowls for you.
Well, I
And
think, yeah, your examples are just, I think that's what's so interesting about the GM role, though, is you can have a guest cussing out a window, you can have a soup bowl shortage, you can have somebody trying to sell you batteries on the phone. Your
Yep.
days are very different. And I think your concept of emailing too and meeting the buyer where they're at, or the person or the prospect where they're at. I have interviewed a lot of general managers, and a lot of times there's been times where they just no-show the Zoom call. But I know their role enough to know that there's probably an emergency happening
Right.
on the floor. And every single time it was, oh my gosh, we had to call 911 for an elderly guest. I'm sorry I missed it. Oh my gosh, and I get it because I know who I'm trying to communicate with. So I give them grace and we reschedule the call, or we just do a walking phone call. So you have to flex, and I think that's such a good example. The other thing you had mentioned about the open floor policy that I wanted to ask you about was, sure that when you're going to the guest or you're going to the associate, how are you making sure that you're not doing the work for them?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question.
Yeah. Because you're the tool, but I don't, because I get into that too, where I just jump into solving the problem and doing it for them. And do you have any coaching that you do that we could learn from?
Yeah, I think some of that's going to be on the fly, right? In the immediate, let me show you where it is, or here's another way to find that information. And then you're just training them. When
Mhm.
it comes to truly doing the job for them, I would prefer to take it, say, out of the guest area and really
Mhm.
go through a training. And then you're really training them, right? Just because somebody's gone through 10 days of training doesn't mean they're ready, right?
Yeah.
I spent 2 hours yesterday with our newest serving staff, and we train our staff how to serve, and we don't train our staff how to table manage. And
Hmm.
I train the staff how to table manage, and those are two very different pieces. So it's drawing it out of them. Anytime I do training, and when we've been together, it's very interactive.
Hmm.
I don't just give everybody the answer. I want people involved and engaged and ask those probing questions. And so I think that's another way to do it.
Yeah, there's so much to learn that no one's ever gonna know it all. And so I
But
think we all need to give ourselves a little bit of grace to not know stuff, but be open
yes,
and willing to learn. And I think I feel so energized and inspired every time I talk to you. So I'm so grateful that we're having this conversation. And I want to ask you, as we're getting close to wrapping up, if most of the people listening aren't running a hotel.
right.
Right. And so I'd love to ask you, but most of them are trying to grow their business, whether they're self-employed or whether they work for an organization. The good salespeople, the good professionals think like an owner. They're running it like their department, their business. So what parting words would you leave us with? If we had to take one page out of your book on how you operate, what would you want it to be?
One word is integrity, right? Again, it's like you said, it's that ownership. Do it right. Meet people where they're at. If I understand how vendors have people come in and say, okay, I want to give you the worst possible so that I can look like a hero.
Mm,
And I understand that. For me, that doesn't work. I want to be as efficient as possible. And so I want you to tell me what my first date and my last date are. And so again, it's meeting me where I'm at, but have that integrity, stick behind it, do the follow up and do what you're supposed to do. But also don't be afraid for that person who is so busy to say, hey, we were going to follow up. Where are we at? And that again, we talk about it. It can be hard in prospecting to do that next one. Oh, I don't want to bother Chris. It's a new account. My boss really wants me to get this account. Last thing I want to do, hey, I'm busy. I'm not perfect. Hit again, say, yep, I am absolutely working on it. Let me do that for you. So those are some of the pieces. Run it like it's your business, run it with your integrity, care about those that are around you, because they are what is going to make your business grow, is your customers and your ability to connect with those customers and service those customers, because they're going to talk, and
yeah.
that's what helps.
Well, and you just said the word service those customers, and obviously the customers include your internal team. Maybe
Yeah,
in closing, you can share with us, we're talking about sales, but we're
right.
also really talking about service. And do you have any type of delineation or difference?
So I think of sales where it's goal oriented, right? A lot of times, and again, that comes from my financial background too, is here's the goal, here's what it is. I'm going to go out and I'm going to do feature and I'm going to do benefit. So the other day, our sales team was busy, of course. And so somebody wanted a tour. And I said, listen, I don't do a sales tour. I love to show off the property. Right. And so
Mhm.
we just strolled and talked, and my passion comes through, and I tell them the history and such. And they're interested. And I said, okay, now I get 2 sales points. Right now, that was the difference. All I was doing was connecting with them. But then there were 2 things I wanted them to leave with. And one was that anybody who comes here and experiences our banquet food is blown away. They feel like it's restaurant food. And we get that comment consistently. And I said, and the other one that I will tell you from a sales is the other thing that I get from people, whether they're in the industry or not, they can tell me how great everything is, but they end it with, it's your team that makes it great. A lot of owners can put a lot of money and make things fantastic. It takes the heart and soul of the team that makes the experience there. And so those were my 2 selling points. Outside of that, I didn't sell them at all. I just interacted with them.
Yeah, and I think that's what the things you talk about the passion shining through. People can tell. And I think your comment on the sales is goal oriented and dollar oriented. When I first started my business, I was coming from sales roles and I was like, I'm gonna make $250,000. I had these little goals for myself. But when I changed it and I said, I'm gonna help 10 teams this year.
Yes.
And that shifted how I showed up because it's not the dollars always follow. If you do the integrity, just like you're saying, sell aligning with values, selling the way the person, serving the way the person wants to be communicated with and sold to. And then the rest of it becomes easy. And I think we have a tendency to overcomplicate things. And what you're saying of just care about the people around you, show up and add value, solve problems fast, be transparent and honest. I think that those are all lessons that anyone can take away with who's listening. So I want to thank you so much for your time. If people want to come stay at the property or experience the Saybrook Point Resort and Marina, where can they find it? Where can they find you?
Yeah, we're on the shoreline in Connecticut, as you said, where the river meets the sound. And as we mentioned, I'm on the website, Chris Bird, under contact us. So can reach out directly to me. Phenomenal dining here, as well as the spa, as you mentioned. Terrific marina, a lot of awards throughout the properties, many, many years here. And we just love to serve. And I think it shows.
Well, I will make sure to link everything in the show notes and hopefully I will make my way to Connecticut, hopefully this year or if not early next year. I can't wait to see the space and meet you and see you again and see the team.
That'd be wonderful. I look forward to it.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us, Chris.
Thanks so much.